Hello. I don't know about you, but the 6 weeks is moving awfully fast. What I'm going to do now is review application project 2 with you so you know what to expect. I'm getting out this early. Some of the material will be that you need to complete this will be covered in week 4. The actual project is 2 is worth 16 points, 16% of your grade. Do take into account that this is a significant portion of your grade. It's built on SRP1, and you should incorporate SRP1, make revisions based on my comments, and then include the package in SRP2 submission. What you're going to find is we're starting out and we are adding different pieces on so that when you're done, we will have a full analysis of the company you're working on, including forecasts and valuation of the company. There are 3 distinct parts of this project, and each of them are identified as well as the grades for each one. It is due no later than 11:59 on Friday, June 14th. I'm going to be reviewing them as they are submitted. If you're not sure of something, please reach out and ask. We're here to help. Submission format, again, is PowerPoint. Do work in Excel and paste some of it into PowerPoint. Use note section. Attach Excel worksheets. Feel free to use audio or video comments. We have some technology that you can use to do this now. And sometimes you can explain things better than you may be able to write them. The purpose of this assignment is for you to be able to analyze the firm's historical sales and expenses based on the work done in SRP1 and interpreting the investor presentation in 10K. You should be able to identify, quantify, and evaluate the strategies the company is planning for the future to grow the revenues. Demonstrate the ability to use and to build defined models. Present information in an easy to comprehend format, balancing having too much versus too little. So you want to use notes and attachments. Skills developing, again, your ability to read, interpret a 10K, and really start to begin analysis. Build Excel skills and develop presentation skills. I think it's important to keep reflecting back on you're learning content, but you're also learning future work skills. How will we grade it? The same way as the other one. Organization, presentation, accuracy of computations and formulas, clarity and depth of responses. Do you really understand what it is, or are you at the surface? This does take us thinking. You got to think another layer and just keep peeling that onion back. And then how do you relate one side of one thing we're doing versus the other? How do they relate to each other? Which is important. The first task, analysis of sales or revenue, is worth 6 points. So based on the financial information that you've already gathered, create a 5-year chart of sales and revenue. Then identify the annual and 5-year growth in both dollars and percentage. Display that. Then explain the change in sales for the past 3 years by breaking the change down into the rate and volume components. And finally for this, discuss how the company applied ASC 606 and what the impact is from analytical purposes. What more might you want to know? So this is worth 6 points. Let me show you what I mean. And here is Steel Dynamics. And what I broke down is I did a chart. And here I broke it down by business segment: steel ops and metal recycling, steel fabrication, and other. So I know where the change happened in percent. But then what I looked at, and some of this is incorporating what we find in investor presentations into the understanding of what happened. So growth in volume has been achieved through plant and line expansions as well as acquisitions to add value-added products. So what I found is this chart which explained all the different things that were going on. How much tons they had at capacity, what's it increasing at, what was the name, whether it was an addition, was it expansion, was it an acquisition, expansion of a line, expansion, 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 expansion. So we're getting that. There's a lot of information here going forward. So you want to pick up those that tell the story, because you're telling the story. I then interpreted this, and I broke it down by business segment. Okay, so I found here's the volume and rate in 16, 17, 18. Okay, so I knew what the... Okay, so I broke it down further, and I said, okay, between 2017 and 2018, revenue went up by $2 billion. Why did that happen? Well, I broke it down into tons and price per ton. So there's the 648, which I got. That's the increase in tonnage based on the shipments that I found here. Increase. So there's my 9997. Here's what was shipped last year, 9349, and 648 is the difference. So we produced 648 million more tons. The price per ton was 764. Price per ton was 764, which I got right here, and 922. So we knew that the price went up $155 a ton. So if we're looking at this, the increase of $2,087,000 was a result of an increase in price and an increase in volume. So what you do to determine the change in sales attributable to volume is you take the change times last year's price per ton, and that calculates out to $497. The change in sales, the rate, is 155 because the price was up. So 155 times 1997, I add them together and I can explain most of the change. So what we're trying to get at is they grew, the steel operations grew because of volume and price. But when we break it down, we see that it's about 75% is price, 25% is volume. Now, what do we say to explain that is what I wrote. Strong domestic demand, especially automotive, construction, and energy, coupled with lower imports, drove demand volume. The rate increased as a result of strong demand, higher tariffs on imported steel, okay, and increase in value-added products. The facility utilization or capacity rate increased to 96%. So now that's going to limit future sales growth until they do new plants or acquisitions come online. So we're trying to understand what this is. This will become clearer as you move forward. I went and broke it down the same way into the other components, and you can see I did the same thing. That's task 1, 6 points. Analysis of cost of goods sold, expenses, and taxes. This is worth 4 points. Based on your common size income statement and the lecture that's out there in week 3 on inventory cost of goods sold, walk through that common size income statement, identify variances, and then explain them. Exclude them, include them in your package at an appropriate location. So we got to go detailed enough and avoid generalities. Again, let me give you some specifics. The gross margin increased from around 10 to 15%, which is pretty good. It's driven by vertical integration. 85% of costs are variable. Okay. Steel mill utilization achieved 96% in 2018. This is over the same period the utilization went from 80 to 96. So essentially what we were doing is we had the plant expense was fixed. We're now running more volume through it. The price for value-added products has been better because the margin is higher. And then the cyclization, the speed by which it was produced, also increased efficiency. So that's why the gross margin increased so much. Impairment charges. Okay. They wrote down the value of their iron making operations, boom, and they wrote down the value of the metal recycling. These related to acquisitions that didn't work out. This increased the tangible net worth and resulted in lower levels of future amortization and profitability. So we go through this to understand what it is. Okay? Income tax, that had a material impact. If we look at what the different pieces are, we can get a sense here. This is the result of the Tax Act, the decline, and they had an operating loss that year, so they were able to earn a benefit of a carryback. So that's basically the things that happen there. Yours may have more, they may have less, but be specific. Okay. Last piece, task 3. Identify strategies and risks. Now we're moving from historical to the future. This is worth 6 points. So now we're going to review the investor presentation, okay, which hopefully everybody's read, and identify the just two, key strategies the company plans on implementing to grow sales and revenue. I want you to find those that are specifically geared towards growth of the company, of revenue. You might find other things there, but I just want you to focus on revenue. Then summarize them from a business perspective. Don't just put numbers, but what is the business rationale behind it? Then evaluate and quantify. Evaluate and quantify how the implementation of the strategy would impact sales based on the volume and rate drivers that you know. You may have 2 of the 3 and you can compute. And the last thing is identify what are the risks. So review the presentation, summarize, identify the 2 key strategies to grow revenue, summarize them, evaluate and quantify them, then identify the risks. And these risks, there's broad risks. The world could end tomorrow. No. We want to be somewhat specific and consider internal and external risks associated with that strategy. Now, the starting point is the investor presentation. So on mine, their big one was capacity utilization and growth initiatives. They're going through and they're going to take these 3 things and what are their plans to do that. So now we're going to take a look at how I pulled that together. And the strategy is expand value-added products, higher margins by growing organically. What are they going to do? Focus on markets that are poised for growth, such as infrastructure, if we ever get it. They have plans in place to utilize and diversify product offerings by over 500,000 tons over the next 2 years. That could increase sales by about $650 million per year. I got that from the previous slide. Now, did I have to make certain assumptions? Sure. But I think it's in the realm of possibilities. And sometimes we got to make assumptions. The risk to the strategies: market demand for value-added products does not materialize. The slowing economy, Congress and the administration can't reach an agreement on infrastructure, so it just goes nowhere. That could significantly hurt the country. With potential tariffs on autos, again, that's a key market for them. With tariffs, they could increase, stay the same, or decrease. Each change in tariffs, positive or negative, will have an effect on the company and its ability to implement. The other thing is the ability to change product lines fast enough to meet the demand that's there in certain segments of the business and at an appropriate cost to produce a profitable return. So that's one growth strategy. The second growth strategy is to acquire other companies, and they make a list of what they have acquired and what they plan to from the investor presentation. And that strategy is expanding existing capacity by building new lines and mills. This could add up to 600 million tons or 750 million in revenue over in the first year. The risk to this, there's a long-term framework to construct new facilities and or acquire companies. In the meantime, demand may change, and that could result in less utilization. Ability to keep the projects within budgets. Ability to find acquisitions at a fair price. Tariffs, increase, stay the same, or decrease. So that is the 3 things that need to be done. It covers everything that's been discovered so far. You should try to integrate all these things in a logical manner. Always consider trends. It's about quantitative and qualitative. We need to make decisions and assumptions and material and to present the story with the greatest impact and focus on the most important. Go back to Pareto. 20% of our actions get us 80% of the results. That's what we want to focus on. Or reverse, 80% of our actions only get us 20%. So we want to take that into account. So you're collecting data, organizing data, and presenting data. You analyze it, tie it together. Some of the material you will need for this will be presented early next week. I'll try to have it out midweek on week number 3 for you, for those that want to get a head start. What should you expect? Again, this is not a simple thing. I would spend some time reading the investor presentation in the 10K. I suggest you take, if you haven't done it already, take another 90 to 120 minutes to read it. Everything you need will be in these documents. Okay. I think it should take less time than the first one, 6 to 9 hours at the most. Visualizing and formatting is important. When I put these out here, remember, what we're doing in 6 weeks, you would have normally had a full semester of 15 weeks, almost 4 months to do this. And we're doing it in literally a month and a half. So you have, I suggest you should balance it and see what it is. If you have any questions, please let me know.